I've got the names right here. So.
Oh, perfect. And ladies and gentlemen, y'all already know that we're back on another RotoHackers podcast.
Bum, bum, bum.
I'm your host,
Bum, bum,
also known as AJ Herschel, the kid. That over there is Judah Buddha, who's going to reveal our winners of the T-shirt contest later tonight. Kind of soon, but also later tonight. And y'all already know it is. Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I'm over here. I'm so excited about this that I'm knocking my mic around.
The absolute stud. That is Jared.
That was not an absolute stud performance on the
completely
intro.
intentional. Completely intentional.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Look, fantasy football season is over. During fantasy football season, I'm at my peak, and then after it's gone, it's like, it's like like fantasy football is like my spinach. I'm Popeye. It's like my spinach, and then it just runs out.
Yes.
I like it.
Well, gentlemen, this week was a very interesting week to say the least. And before we get into that, y'all already know I'm repping my Titans. I'm wearing my Titans jacket for this whole episode right now. It's gonna be very hot in here. This is a very warm jacket.
You got a Titans jacket?
Derrick Henry,
Nice.
for Ryan Tannehill, I'm gonna be repping this thing the whole episode.
My boy Derrick Henry.
And Judah Buddha, I believe that we have an announcement, if that is correct.
Yes. So we said back in the day, that if one of our videos got to 100, it was on a bit of a whim. We said that if one of our videos got to 100, it's like our arbitrary number, we'd give away 3 T-shirts. And I've got the winners here. A man named. So it was drawn from a group of people that were watching that, who contributed to that 100 view video. It was
people who commented in this select time.
Yeah, that's what I meant. In the select frame time.
Yep, that's right.
Anyways. I have no idea myself. I'm like the dad who's sitting there on Christmas morning, and he is just as surprised as the kids are at what he and the mom got the kids for Christmas. I have no idea here.
That never happens. What are you talking about? Okay, so in no particular order, it's actually random order. Ryan and Luca Hayda and 710.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Congratulations.
Got some good consistent contributor names there.
Yeah. I was hoping MathQuest would get it, but didn't get the draw. If you know what though, I'm gonna put this out there. If MathQuest, Omar Abrea, Ray Gibson, or TS contacts me or leaves a comment before one of the others guys do, I'm gonna give one
extra one.
That was a weird way of phrasing it. Are you trying to say that the first one out of that group to comment gets a shirt?
Yep.
Okay.
And they might get it like if one of the other guys doesn't. I'm saying if one of the other guys never contacts me, then you're getting this shirt.
Okay.
So contact us with your you can send us a message or you can email us at rotohackers@gmail.com. Send us your contact information at least.
Yeah.
And and if you just want to give me like something like if you're worried I'm going to stalk you or something, you can just give me like a Google number, like a Google Voice number, and I will call you and we can rendezvous somewhere or something. I don't know. I have no idea, but
this whole show's been a long con. It's just been like the most roundabout way of like getting YouTube users like contact information, and then we're gonna spam them.
Wouldn't that be weird? Like all of a sudden we never show up on YouTube again.
I'm gonna pull out my little tiny dog and just be like stroking him here, you know.
Well, you know what's interesting is that you might know him, Jared. Do you remember Mike Emmert?
Yes.
So he's one of the main reasons we're able to do this, or one of the main reasons we started this. He is the one. Mike, me, and Jared went to school together. Mike had a podcast of God and Guns or something like that, and he was telling me about how to do. He taught me how to do podcasts, and told me about like their popularity and stuff. This was about 5 years ago, and then he gave up podcasting. They adopted a new little girl, and he didn't have time, so he gave me all his podcasting stuff. This microphone, a bunch of these headphones. They're not headphones.
Very nice.
So yeah,
very cool.
Very nice.
Oh, why did I bring that up? Oh, because before I did this podcast, we would do this little weird thing where we would contact each other, and we were writing a drama. It was like kind of real time meta story, and it was called Borderline. And I can't wait to, I don't know what he did with it. I never saw it after we stopped after a while, but it was a fun little drama we did that was kind of like what you guys are saying, like the long con thing.
Interesting.
So that was a boring little story. I thought it was more interesting.
We're just it's a long off season, so like every single episode is gonna have to have a different theme. Last week was Star Wars. Week was Star Wars week. This week is going to be short stories with disappointing payoffs.
Works for me.
Which I did see Rise of Skywalker, but we don't get back into that. But I did finally see it. Yeah.
Well,
and was it as disappointing as everyone was saying it was?
It was worse. It was worse than I thought. Because of I'd read all the spoilers, but the pacing. Like I knew what the pacing was, but it's one thing to hear about it, and then it's another thing to experience it. And I was just like, anytime that a scene went for more than like 20 seconds, I was just like, oh gosh, yes, please, just give me a second to breathe here. Yes, thank you. So yeah,
a lot of people said
funny.
It felt like a video game. Like,
the whole thing was like a fetch quest. You got to get the piece to find the other piece to find the other piece to find the thing.
It was, but it wasn't even like, but it was so much faster than that though. It was like, I told somebody it was like if you made like a Star Wars version of The Amazing Race, because it just felt like like reality TV. Like we got to keep them going. We can't like let them change the channel at the commercial. Just keep going. So yeah. Whew. Anyway.
Wow. Anyway, well, the RotoHackers obviously spawned into half Star Wars franchise podcast, which totally works for me. But that's going to be my terrible segue into Thomas H's comment, which is just 2 words. Jared, how about you say what those 2 words are for us?
The only 2 words that matter in football these days: Derrick Henry.
My man, you guys didn't believe in him like I did at the end there.
Okay, yeah. This would be a more compelling argument if we didn't have months of recorded video evidence on the internet.
Wait. Who predicted that they were going to win and nobody believed in them?
You did. No, I didn't. I didn't think that they would win. I didn't think that they would win.
Let's rewind the tape. This is the rewind tape.
Yeah.
My boy Derrick Henry. Wait, what's his name? Derrick Henry is going to lead them to a win.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I didn't think they would win, but I also freely admit, like I told you the other night, like I'm terrible at picking games. For as good as I am at picking fantasy football players, which I think I'm pretty good at, I am equally terrible at choosing outcomes and winners. I'm just I'd never bet on games because I would lose my shirt.
Okay. That was a crazy week, to say the least. And I guess just starting with the Titans, Jared, you want to take it away?
I don't know. I don't know what I was when they. I mean, I was wrong on 3 out of 4 games. So the only one I got right was the Packers. It looked like I was going to get the Texans game right at first, and then that, man, wow, what a game that was. Yeah, the Titans. I mean, Derrick Henry, like we said, Tannehill, Henry, but but their defense deserves credit too for doing something that not many teams have done, and that's slow down Lamar Jackson in that offense. So I don't know. I mean, after you saw what Kansas City did against the Texans, once they got going, it's hard to pick against them. But man, like Tennessee, they're just world beaters right now. So kudos to them. I wasn't sure if they could keep it up. Like, they got up in the first half and I'm like, there's been a couple of games where Lamar Jackson's turned it on in the second half. I think actually the first was the first round of the playoffs, of the fantasy playoffs, because Judah and I were talking about it.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I think it was where they were playing. Were they playing Cleveland? I can't remember who they were playing, but anyway, like starting out, he was kind of slow and didn't have that big of a first half. I don't think.
No. Well, was it? Because in the final game, remember, he had like -1 point for the first half.
Yeah, maybe it was. I'm not sure.
Freaking out.
Yeah,
maybe it was losing everywhere. Instead, I just lost to you.
Yeah. So I mean, he had some games like that, and so I thought like he'll turn it on in the second half.
Yeah,
but no, he didn't. So I don't have a ton of great insight on this game, other than I mean, it was just our man Derrick Henry still keeping it rolling. Now, how many games in a row is this, like over 180 rushing yards for him or something? Or didn't he?
Even know. It's insane.
I think this is like his 4th straight, like in a row.
Yeah, let's see if I can.
But he's had a lot this season.
So Judah Buddha, while he's looking it up, what were your thoughts? Because you had your Titans upset pick going head to head with your season-long Lamar Jackson pick.
Yeah, so we were talking about like how ironic it was that like, my two best calls were Lamar Jackson and then Lamar Jackson falling flat.
Yep.
You know what I thought originally was 2 things. I forget what I said in the video, but Lamar Jackson's still a rookie. Or not a rookie, but he's still young and he hadn't been to any playoffs. And number 2 was that I felt like their run defense was better than people gave them credit for. They have a really good run defense. And with a good run defense, it's good, that gives them a leg up, or at least a good place to start when playing somebody like the run heavy Ravens. So, but really what turned out to be, it was more their run offense. And it's interesting that, what's his name? Eric mentioned in the chat, the best run offense or best run defenses had the best. No, the best run offenses had the best run defenses this year. I don't know how much that is true, but there's a real correlation there, and there's a correlation with defense and time of possession. And with them getting that first touchdown, it just like that was huge. Getting up early.
Oh yeah.
The game script just played out perfectly for them, and they're able to dominate time of possession. Although it's weird because the Ravens ended up having the ball a lot.
Yeah, they turned it over. That was the other thing too. It was like with the Saints game where the Saints hadn't turned the ball over, and then they started turning it over against the Vikings the week before.
Wasn't like one of the first plays Lamar throwing a interception?
Some early one, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember how it went, but I know he ended up, I think, with 3 3 turnovers just himself. I think So,
Yeah.
that was a big deal.
Which is crazy because he still like combined all-purpose yards. I believe he had 500 all-purpose yards combined.
Oh, and I did look up the Derrick Henry stats here. So,
here we go.
In those 3 games, he had at least 30 carries in each game.
Wow.
Not 20, not 20 or 25, 30. He had 32 against the Texans, 34 against the Patriots, and 30 against the Ravens. In each game, he had at least 182 rushing yards. He went 211, 182, 195. And then his yards per carry his yards per carry were the worst in the Patriots game. It was just 5.4. Just 5.4. In the Ravens and the Texans game, he had 6.5 and 6.6. I mean,
wow.
That's running the ball. He's basically putting you in almost a 2nd and 3 pretty much every time, I mean, that's just nuts.
That's crazy. I think one of the things that, honestly, I think the two people like, because we talk about Henry, we talk about Lamar, but I think the two people they're the 2 units, I'll say, that need a lot of credit as well from that game was, first off, the Titans offensive line has been quietly great this year, including this last playoff game. And I was just noticing something as I was looking back at the game log. Every single time the Titans scored a touchdown, it was off of a turnover. Their first touchdown came after a Lamar Jackson interception. The second one was after a turnover on downs. The third one was after a turnover on downs. And the fourth one, if I remember correctly, it was after Lamar's fumble. Every time they scored, they had a short field. Every time. The Titans defense came up huge in this game.
Yeah.
Because you talk about ball control and Derrick Henry being able to run the clock out, which he can, but every time they scored, it's because they had a short field. Every time. So kudos to the Titans defense there.
Yeah.
A couple other little points we had some news today. I don't know if you guys caught it in NFL news. Luke Kuechly retired, which I think is probably a very good decision on his part. He's had so many concussions. I remember a game where he got hit and had a concussion, and he was like going off the field just like sobbing, And I don't think it was from knowing that he had another concussion. I think it was just like it hit his brain in a way that made him just like lose control of his emotions,
Yeah, because it was weird. I remember that game. It was really weird. Like people were like,
like what?
You didn't just lose a huge Super Bowl or anything.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a tough loss for Carolina. I mean, he's an elite defensive player. So, but I think we're just going to see more of that. Andrew Luck retired at 29 at the beginning of the season. Luke Kuechly retires at 28 at the beginning of the season. I think you're just going to see more and more of guys hanging it up at about 30 or a little bit before. So
I think AJ Green's going to go soon. That's probably, I think, a guy that could leave. He's had so many injuries plaguing him, and I know he wants to keep going, but similar situation.
Yeah. It may depend on. I mean, he's a free agent, so it may depend on kind of what kind of contract he gets. Like if he doesn't get the big deal that he's looking for, then I could see him, just maybe playing a year and ducking out or something.
Well, back to the divisional round. Oh goodness, back to the divisional round. Chiefs Texans.
So,
that Judah Buddha, you want? Go ahead.
No,
I know you want to say something.
I was watching the game in my seat right before we were at the movies. We were about to watch 1917, the movie.
Oh, nice.
And I was so upset that I was missing the game. So I was just watching it, waiting for the movie to start. The Texans get up. They get up like 24. And I'm just like, man. But then, so I turned it off and, the movie started. And I was like, man, what it would be like if I turned my phone on after the movie and and the Chiefs are like tied or ahead. Man, I turned it back on. I had to show my friend. I'm like, whoa, look at this. They're way ahead. Yeah, it was amazing. It was fun. And then I went back and watched the whole game. And just such a good game. Such a fun game to watch. Not if you're a Texans fan.
I was about to say.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, for me, I don't even know if it really was that fun for me because it was like all Texans and then all Chiefs.
Yeah, that's true.
So I was just like, and kind of once the Chiefs got it going, I think even when the Chiefs got it to like 24-14, you just saw what was happening here. Like when I think it was 24-7 and then Bill O'Brien tried to go for that fake punt in their own territory. And like, I think as soon as they failed on that, I'm like, oh yeah, they're done because he's panicking. He looks desperate even with a 24-7 lead, and the Chiefs were just starting to roll. And really, I guess, their struggles at the beginning of the game were from a lot of dropped passes. So once it got going, I think they scored touchdowns on 7 straight possessions before they finally kicked a late field goal. But yeah.
I'm just thinking this has probably got to be the greatest week for Titans fans. You made it to the AFC Championship, and then you got to see your division rival just get obliterated on Sunday by the Chiefs when Patrick Mahomes puts up a Joe Burrow-esque performance, if I might say.
But would you not rather, if you were the Titans, would you not rather play the Texans than the Chiefs?
Yeah. After they jumped out 21-0, I was really thinking, are we going to see the AFC South matchup round 3? I was kind of hoping for that at that point. And then what happened?
Yeah, I made a joke about like, is there, I don't know if you guys have ever followed WWE at all, but there's this thing each year where they have this what they call a Money in the Bank briefcase, and they basically they can, if you win that, then you get to keep it for the year, and you can like cash in a title shot at any time, and so they'll do it like right after there's after the champions had some grueling match, they'll cash it in and try to beat them. So I was saying, like, man, do the Colts have any kind of like Money in the Bank briefcase that they could just like let the Texans and Titans play, beat each other up, and then like run in and okay, we cashing it in. We gotta
we're cashing it.
We're gonna have the real AFC Championship. Yeah. They'd still lose though, but
yeah,
maybe. Wow. Well, what was I gonna say?
What were you gonna say?
Oh, something you said, AJ. We were talking. We were messaging. I have to look it up. Something I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I don't know.
While you're checking, I do just want to mention, since I'm a Georgia fan, the thing that sparked the Chiefs' comeback was Mecole Hardman's incredible kickoff return to start the second half.
It was,
and that lit the spark, and they exploded.
There you
go.
By the way, tonight.
Oh,
hey,
there it is.
I mean,
let's go,
when you live down here, you gotta at least have like 1 or 2 pieces of Georgia apparel,
Let's
so.
go.
Yes,
there we go.
I think
Sugar
that's what
Bowl
it was.
champs.
Your guy, AJ Herschel, your dog, Mecole.
Oh yeah,
Mecole Hardman.
Yeah.
Yep, that was it.
So NFC, we had Vikings, 49ers. Boy. It was close for the first half. I think it was just like a 3-point game at halftime or something like that. And then just all 49ers in the second half.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, were the 49ers really just toying with them at halftime? And then they're like, okay, let's put the Vikes out of their misery at that point. What do you guys think?
I think they were getting. I didn't see as much of that game.
I didn't see much.
That was the game I saw the least of.
They were setting the pace. A lot of these wins were just like, actually, with that game, the Packers game, and the Titans win. a lot of it had to do with just establishing the run.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep.
And just controlling, maybe even not if like just controlling the pace of the game, and I think at first they were just trying to get in the rhythm, and they got in a rhythm, and mostly with who was it, that running back that used to be with the Falcons, Coleman.
Kevin Coleman,
Yeah,
Mhm.
they actually did. He did really well and got him some chunk yardage that started to really spark.
Yeah.
Just some long drives.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've been talking about a lot, like over the last 2 weeks, about running teams, and we look at the Vikings. They have Dalvin Cook. He averaged 2 yards a rush. He ran 9 times.
They
for
stopped
18
him.
yards. That I think was the real ticker to the entire game. They shut down the Vikings' run defense and run offense. They shut down Dalvin Cook, and that was it. I think that was the key to the 49ers winning that game.
Yeah, that and a couple key plays by the defense. There was a couple, like, I can't remember now, but I just remember there being like, there wasn't a lot of, I can't remember if there were a lot of interceptions, but it felt like there were like a couple that were almost interceptions, but anyways, they kept them from going, that extra, it was like the third down and it was just close. And the defense rushers, they were rushing with only 4 guys, and it felt like they were getting to Kirk Cousins,
That's that San Francisco line. I remember when I don't know. Well, I saw some of their games this year, but I remember the really brutal one was when they played Cleveland on like Monday Night Football or something like that, and they just abused that Cleveland offensive line and Baker Mayfield, and they have a nasty defensive line if they're all healthy, and they can rush 4 and drop 7. So,
So, I mean, I don't know what else there is honestly to say about 49ers Vikings unless you all have anything else. I think we kind of all saw this coming. It was inevitable.
Well, no, we didn't all see that coming.
No, I picked 2 upsets. I picked Houston, Kansas City, and then I picked the Vikings. Yeah, so
that was it was an interesting
Although
one. You had a reason though.
Well, yeah, and you did have the caveat. You said, they're gonna have a chance to prepare and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah. San Francisco's had some letdown games, but like I picked 2 upsets because I felt like I couldn't pick 4 home teams. I just picked the wrong upsets.
The wrong upsets.
But I mean, realistically, with 2 weeks to prepare, Shanahan's a smart coach.
Yeah. Not that what's his name for the Ravens isn't a smart coach, but I think they were a little bit more cold. It felt like, as a young player, Lamar Jackson was just, he didn't have the same kind of shake off the rust, that that somebody who's been in the league as long as my boy Jimmy Polo, he just, I don't know, he just, having been played behind Brady, maybe he just didn't have the same kind of this is do or die and just this is just work as usual,
Plus Jimmy Polo didn't have to watch Derrick Henry running down his defenders on the other side, so he didn't get psyched out by watching that like Lamar did.
Yeah. And Judah Buddha, you want to go ahead and get it over with? Gloating for the divisional round. But before we get to that, by the way, Jared, it appears that our man Thomas H is not only a Falcons fan, but he obviously noticed your shirt as well. So I would not be surprised that if he's singing "Hunker Down, You Junkyard Dogs" right now.
Although, I'm sure we'll get to it, but you guys lost Fromm, so.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
We need to talk about Fromm and Burrow. I think this week at least, because we both have some topical stuff with timely stuff with them. But
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but Packers Seahawks.
Yep. Judah Buddha, you want to go ahead and take it?
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and defend the honor of my Packers. Go Pack, go! Their defense came through in a big way, mostly in the first half. I'll say that. But even like, it was more than just the first half, though, because any other team, or many other teams have gotten worn out by that crazy, aggravating Wilson running with his chicken like a chicken with his head cut off, but still managing to dominate with it. You know, it almost got to them, but they're able to shut it down, and they held on to their lead. It wasn't a game like if they're to win next, and we'll talk more about this. If they're to win next week, though, they're going to need that. That wasn't an Aaron Rodgers going off,
Right?
Mm-hmm. And he didn't need to, though. But he didn't need to. They relied on their defense early, and got a couple scores. More of a time management thing. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I don't know how much he can go off right now. Like, it's hard to tell. Like, people say he's lost a step or something, lost something on his throw or something, but it's really hard to tell with like as little as he's working with besides Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
I mean, Lazard has come on a little bit, but you know, it's just not the same receiving core that he's had in the past. And it just seemed like guys stepped up better in the past, even if they were, you know, the fourth guy or fifth guy or whatever. And this group, I don't know, it's just not happening. But yeah, that's going to be a tough game. I mean,
yeah,
the Packers are a different team on the road than they are at home. I mean, it's always easier for teams at home, but the Packers especially, you know, Aaron Rodgers years back, he had a streak of, you know, having not thrown an interception in like X number of games or X number of passes at Lambeau. And it's just going to be tougher. You know, they had a hard time going into San Francisco this season. They had a hard time going into LA against the Chargers. Mm-hmm. So
they had a hard time beating Washington.
Yeah, that's true. So that's going to be tough. I don't know how they're going to pull that one off.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can do it. What do you think, AJ? What do you think? I mean, like, what's your unbiased opinion?
Okay, my unbiased opinion. This is going to sound completely biased.
I mean, because both on how the game went and, you know, and how it's going to go.
Yeah, how the game went. First off, the Seahawks. I think the main reason why, because we talk about the Packers and their defense did step up in the first half. Keep in mind, they also gave up touchdowns on 3 straight possessions in the second half. It was the stop at the end that gave them the win. But here's the thing. The Seahawks lost because they lost Chris Carson. They have no rushing game. Marshawn Lynch's 2 touchdowns both came on 1-yard runs up the gut because, you know, they run the ball on the 1 now. I'm totally not salty about that. Play still. Anyway, they have no running attack anymore. They have no true running attack anymore. Marshawn averaged, what did he average? He averaged, 2.2 yards a carry. That is what I think killed them. Because when they had Carson running at full speed, they had Russell at 100%. They had whichever tight end was playing for the day at 100%. They were a well-oiled machine. But when Carson went down, the Seahawks broke down, and the Packers took advantage of that early, and it got them the win. Now, in relation to the 49ers, they're dead meat. That's my opinion on it. I'd like to reference quote unquote game 1 where they lost 37-8. The Packers are at their best when either A, Aaron Rodgers takes advantage of a terrible pass defense, or B, Aaron Jones just runs over whoever's there. San Francisco has a solid defense, and we just saw them shut down Dalvin Cook, who's a top 5 running back in the NFL right now. I honestly don't think the Packers stand a chance, and if they make it to the Super Bowl, I will be no one will be more surprised than me. kind of a harsh take there, but
Well, if they make it to the Super Bowl, they're gonna need some explaining. There's gonna be some explaining in that is due.
Did you say Super Bowl? I thought you said Pro Bowl. I may have heard you incorrectly.
Super Bowl, because if it's Mahomes versus Aaron Rodgers, like, people are gonna call foul. That, like, State Farm might have paid to make that happen.
Can you imagine,
don't.
like State Farm's the main sponsor for the game too?
Yeah.
I really want Tannehill to get in, because it's gonna be in Miami.
Yes,
That is pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
I would love to see Tannehill get in.
Can you imagine, like, the year that the Dolphins let him walk? And I saw a graphic today of, like, how much of his salary the Dolphins are paying. It's something crazy. It's like he's making like 22 million or something, and the Dolphins are paying like 20 million of it. I'm going to look this up while we're talking here, but I mean, just the ultimate insult that this guy was there for years. Dolphins were never able to do anything, and then he walks to the Titans. They're still paying him the vast majority of his money, and he walks into a Super Bowl.
That I would really appreciate that. I would like that a lot. Now, one thing about what you said, AJ, you said, so I remember you kind of banging on their defense, the Packers, but the thing that struck me is the Packers have their weakness is their run defense, but I was thinking Seahawks don't have the thing that worried me was that Marshawn was going to, beast mode it.
Yeah.
But the Seahawks,
We have a new beast mode. His name is Derrick
Henry, bro. He's more than beast mode. That's Superman. But here's the thing. This is are we going to get into the games next week?
Sure, we can go ahead and get into that.
So I don't know if I'm going to pick the Packers yet. I haven't decided. But if I do, this is the only way I see them doing it. The way I see them winning is not relying on Aaron Jones to bust the middle. He's not going to do that. If he tries to pull Dalvin Cook, he's going to fail just like Dalvin Cook. No, what I think it's going to take is a lot of intermediate passes to Aaron Jones in space, getting him out in space, to their tight ends, to everybody, really, like just keeping it close, keeping it safe, for the most part. And Aaron Rodgers is going to have to find some spark in those legs. He's going to have to get it done a lot with his legs. I think he's going to have to draw upon some of that young Lamar Mahomes spirit, and he can. He has a little get up and go. He's going to have to use it, I think, in this game, because that line's going to collapse in on him, and he's going to have to do a judo move to use that awesome line at, getting in front of them, getting chunk yardage with his legs. That's
Jared, what do you think?
Yeah, I just looked it up and I guess they're not. It's the cap hit, not what they're actually. Maybe they're not actually still paying him. So I guess, but anyway, so the Dolphins or the Titans 2019 cap hit with Tannehill is 1.85 million. The Dolphins is apparently 18.5.
Oh, wow.
So literally 10 times more. Yeah, I think this is a game where, like, Matt LaFleur is going to have to earn his money if the Packers are going to win this game. He's going to have to come up with some smart, just genius schemes, because the Packers, they just don't have. They've got Devontae Adams. They don't really have much of a number 2 receiver behind him. Jimmy Graham is old. They've got Aaron Jones, but I mean, when you've got one good receiver and a good running back, that's something. But you look at everything that a guy like Mahomes has, or even with the 49ers, where they don't have someone of Devontae Adams caliber, but they've got Emmanuel Sanders. They've got Deebo Samuel. They've got George Kittle. They've got Coleman. They've got Mostert. Bourne catches a lot of passes in the red zone. So it's tough to guard that many weapons. So yeah, I think LaFleur is really going to have to earn his money with this game if they're gonna win.
Yeah, everything's gonna have to break their way.
Yeah. Thomas H is with me on this one. He's saying the Niners win easy. They are a more complete team.
Mm-hmm.
They are a more complete team for sure. And see, I just don't see it's hard for me to see the Packers beating the Niners. I think, okay, sure, it's possible. But I mean, I just think about it for a couple seconds, and I'm just like, there are so many more ways the 49ers could win than the Packers could win. They have so many more. They've got better weapons. They've got a better defense. They have a more complete offense as well. It just does. I don't feel like the Packers can beat them. And even looking at the Seahawks game, yeah, the Packers had a hot start, and they led up 3 straight touchdowns in the second half on 3 straight possessions. So, yeah, no, it's a slim chance.
Yeah, if it was in Lambeau, I'd give the Packers a solid chance, at least like 40%.
Yeah.
In San Francisco, or wherever it is, Santa Clara, wherever.
Yeah.
I don't know that they can do it.
Mm-hmm. So as those are our predictions then? Jared, you going 49ers?
I'm going 49ers. I don't know about the AFC game. I'm not sure on that one. I'll have to.
What would you think Vegas's line would be for both games?
Aren't you asking the guy who said he's terrible on picking football?
Yeah, right. I am.
What would you guess, though? What would you guess?
49ers plus. I'd say the 49ers are 8-point favorite.
No, it's 7. It was 7.5 some places.
That was close.
Yeah, there you go.
That was very close. What do you think? What about Kansas City?
Ooh, that's a harder one because Kansas City's got that monster offense, but I don't know if they're more or less. I think you can make an argument for it either way. I don't know. Let AJ pick on that one. Give me a second to think.
If I'm reading this right, okay, yeah. What's going on? Hello?
I think he's thinking.
Oh, he's thinking.
Yep. See, I'm in a dangerous spot here. This is what I'm wearing. And my younger brother is a Chiefs fan.
Ooh,
dedicated Chiefs fan.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm in a tight position here.
Yeah.
Oh, man. See, part of me wants to continue believing in the Titans and just be like, yes, they're going to make it to the Super Bowl. But the other side of me is like, did you just watch what happened? Okay, Andy Reid is one of the scariest beings in the universe if you make him angry about anything. I remember watching the Texans-Chiefs game, and every time they'd pan to Andy Reid's face, and you just have this deadpan stare straight at the field, and I was like, he's angry about something that just happened. So I just don't know. It's going to be hard for Tennessee to go into Arrowhead and win. That's the difficult part for me. If it was in Tennessee, it's a different matter, but you're playing in Arrowhead. And I'm filibustering, so I don't have to make a decision. One of you guys want to keep talking?
I'll say just the way Judah was before he cut himself off, it sounded like he was about to say the stat lines were about the same. So I'm just inclined to say like Chiefs 7.5 just because of him kind of giving it away.
I'm sorry. That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually who is this? Football Locks has the average. They're both averaged at 7.5. But I'm seeing -10 for Kansas City a lot of places. but it averages out, I guess. So, I don't know, man. That's more than a touchdown for both. Let's say we'll just say the line is -7.5 for both Kansas City and San Francisco.
I think that's safer with. I mean, I feel better about the 49ers game.
Yeah.
I don't know about that Titans-Chiefs game. I mean, the way the Chiefs score, if the thing is, like, if they get up on Tennessee, then what happens? Like, that could turn ugly, you know.
Yeah.
But no way to know.
I'm gonna pick Kansas City. Kansas City, Green Bay.
You got to go with your heart.
I gotta
Kansas City, Green Bay.
And let me give you the argument just from a better standpoint for Green Bay. Everybody's going to be on San Francisco. Everybody. And so, like, I don't know if I'm going to take Green Bay winning. Okay, I'm taking them winning straight up, but I know they're going to beat that line. There's no way San Francisco is going to beat them by more than a touchdown.
Oh, man, we have completely different outlooks on this game. If I have to see Titans versus Chiefs or 49ers versus Packers, like one of them blowing the other out, I think 49ers roll over Green Bay. Look at the last time they played. They won by 29. You're going into San Francisco after they just came off a solid win. They shut down the Vikes run game. What's to say they can't shut down another one? Okay, so that's the easy one for me. I think 49ers just take the Packers to school, I think. That's going to be my take for that one.
Okay.
And then we get to the tough one.
Definitely possible. Definitely possible.
Yeah. Because I'm just trying to think, when the 49ers beat the Packers, was that in Lambeau? Am I incorrect about that?
I think that was in San Francisco, wasn't it?
Okay, gotcha. I cannot remember.
I've heard that.
Let me check. Okay, yeah, it was in San Francisco. You're right. So yeah, I have a hard time believing that they're going in and beating them. And then, oh man, who did you say, Cheetah Buddha? You said Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I actually like. I would really like the Titans to win, but I just see the Chiefs just blowing them out. Like, to me, that's the more. I think both are going to be high scoring games.
Really?
The over. So the over for the Green Bay Packers game is 45, and it's 52 for the Kansas City Tennessee game. So everyone's expecting. So Vegas is expecting that to be a high shooting out game.
That's interesting, because I could honestly, as good as Mahomes is, and as many points as the Chiefs can put on the board within 5 minutes, I can see a scenario where the Titans, Derrick Henry controls the ball, and they force the Chiefs to have to stop them on longer drives, because Chiefs defense, they've stacked themselves up last few weeks, but they're no Ravens run defense though. The Ravens didn't contain Derrick Henry. I don't know if the Chiefs defense can, but Thomas H., this is kind of my thought. As good as Derrick Henry is, Mahomes is probably the best player out there. What do you think, Jared?
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes. I think Mahomes is the best player left in
the playoffs.
Maybe
yeah.
Still the best player. Maybe the best player in football. Period.
Wow.
As
over Lamar.
Yeah, I mean, as much as
I'd agree with that.
As well as Lamar did. I mean, Mahomes. I mean, he's just that good. I mean, he's just a pure passer. He's creative. Lamar, it's going to be interesting to see how teams adjust to Lamar in season really what's season 2 for him. I mean, I know this was season 2, but he didn't start the full year in season 1. He made huge strides this year. So this was really their first look. And, you know, NFL is a game of adjustments. Teams are going to.
How would you stop Lamar?
That's tough. That's
you know
tough.
what I'd do? I would say run over us with Ingram and Gus Bus. We're gonna let you guys run. Well, I would say like beat us with the run. We're gonna stop your pass and we're gonna stop Lamar. We are gonna spy him on.
Mm-hmm.
We are gonna compensate more towards worrying about Lamar running, because I would actually rather try to stop one of those running backs than Lamar, you know, like I think he's their best running. He's their best runner by far.
Yeah. They've just got a lot of ways to beat you. They've got receivers that can get deep. Hollywood Brown and Lamar he's fairly accurate with those deep balls. They've got a Travis Kelce type clone with Mark Andrews. You know, and then you know, Jackson can run the ball. They can run the ball with their running backs. They've got 3 very different running backs. It's like you know, Tall, Grande, and Venti, with Justice Hill, Gus Edwards, and Mark Ingram.
True.
And so they've just got so many ways to beat you. I don't know. I think, but when you give teams an off season to study a guy and scheme for him and stuff like that, like unless your game is just so capable of adjusting to different strengths, they're gonna take away, you know, what you do best. So I am really curious to see what it's going to look like in year 2. You know, I mean, even Mahomes for a lot of the year kind of slowed down. I don't know if you want to say regressed, but he didn't put up numbers like he did last year for a good chunk of the season. So I don't know. I think they will, you know, come out with packages just designed to try to confuse Lamar as much as possible. Take away the run. Try to make him throw it, but you know, confuse him as best you can, because he's not. I mean, he's accurate. You know, I mean, he's throwing just lasers out there at times. So it's not like you can count on him to miss throws. So I don't know. You're going to have to try to confuse him as much as you can.
Yeah. Eric Courier, thanks for tuning in. He asked, can you win MVP after missing 2.5 games?
What does that mean?
Is that Mahomes?
Yeah, that's Mahomes.
Wait, the MVP's already been given out, hasn't it?
Not yet, but that's why he's saying hypothetically.
Yeah, I'm sure you could.
Nah.
But he could. Like the 2.5 games is not what's gonna keep him from getting the MVP.
Right.
It's just that, you know, he just didn't carry the team. In fact, his replacement did just as well as him, as far as the W column goes.
I don't know.
Well, and they just vote based off of regular season, and so his what he did last week's not gonna count. So for the regular season, you know, it was gonna be Lamar, I think.
Hands down.
Yeah.
With Ryan Tannehill as the runner-up. I do just want to say this. There are only 2 ways. To stop Lamar Jackson. One is you put him back at Louisville and stick him back in the ACC and make him play Clemson once a year. Number 2 is the strategy that is probably going to happen. You stick him on the Madden cover.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, that's true.
That is the only way to stop Lamar Jackson.
You can only stop him with magic.
Thomas H. has got a curious question for us. Sorry, guys.
All right. What did Eric Courier say about the Fudge Packers?
Yeah, he says the Niners may be more complete, but the Packers have that knack this year.
They have the big the Mo.
Yeah, beating the Redskins by 5, losing to 49ers by 29. Yeah, they've got a very distinct MO.
Momentum.
Don't they both do? Sure. Okay. Well, Thomas H has got an interesting question for us. Do y'all think Lamar will ever rush for a K in a season again?
Yeah, I do. Unless he gets hurt. I think he's going to a couple times.
That's really hard to say because I think even with with guys like Vic and things like that, there would be a pretty big drop off from where they were from 1 year to another. I think just for a quarterback, it gets tougher. So what did he end up with this year? So he ended up with 1206 in 15 games. Yeah. I mean, even if he drops off, and it's only like 80% production or whatever, he's still gonna make it. So I didn't even realize he had eclipsed it by that much, in only 15 games. So unless he just gets injured already, like next year, I think he probably will.
What's notable about the way he runs is that he's very careful. Like he's not getting slammed.
He has great vision.
He's running out of bounds and he's sliding. It's almost like he learned the lesson that Wilson learned, but just faster because Wilson started doing that a lot more in his second, third year. But even now, though, he's getting that pulled down under the pile that really hurts guys, and you don't see Lamar getting that very often. He's just tiptoeing, and then getting pushed down or getting pushed out of bounds. But it's nice to watch.
Yeah, like that's what and I wish Andrew Luck had been that smart. I mean, Andrew Luck just wasn't. He always looked like he was trying to prove something. Like he was wanting to show his teammates that he was going to take hits just like a running back.
It didn't help that for like 3 years he had one of the worst offensive lines.
Oh, it was horrendous. It was horrendous, but he didn't help things either. I mean, he would just I think where he got his kidney lacerated was on a scramble, and and it was just like a meaningless game that they were. I don't remember if they were winning it or losing it, but it didn't matter. You've got to protect yourself, and he was just really stubborn about it. So I wish he had learned that lesson, but
yeah. Fun fact, if Mahomes had rushed for just 24 more yards, he'd be a top 5 rusher this year.
Wow.
Just 24 under Chris Carson.
If he had just played that one more game.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Yeah. Well, and the Chiefs don't, I mean, Damian Williams has shown up in spots, but they just haven't had a consistent running game. And so in that game, he was their rushing attack for a lot of the game. I think, later on in the game, Damian Williams came on a little bit more. But, Mahomes had to provide a lot of that.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you are with long descriptions. Those are predictions for championship games. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what we got up there.
Yeah.
Judah Buddha's the only one going Green Bay, and I'm the only one going Tennessee.
I'll play it safe this week. I think I at least get 50-50. Surely both of these teams aren't going to pull.
Right. One of them has to win. 49ers. One of them has to win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never know. Any given Sunday, my friends. Are both games on Sunday this week?
Yeah, they always play the championship games together on the same day.
Okay. Hey, no matter what, I think it's going to be some fun games. Good
Yeah.
games to watch.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
and there will be, like, regardless of who wins, there won't be a team that I just hate. And maybe that's not true for AJ here, but there won't just be a team that I hate in the Super Bowl. Like I didn't want the Patriots in. I didn't want the Saints in. I just hate those teams.
Listen. I'll read you what I wrote on Facebook. Can people be a little more sympathetic toward Bears fans? This is a really traumatic time.
Oh.
When half the playoff quarterbacks are players they jumped over for Trubisky in the draft. Hate.
I've heard this sham one too many times. We get the points.
Did you kick him out of frame or just completely kick him out of the podcast?
Just out of the frame, yeah. Put him in a short timeout.
That's funny.
Hey,
You calm down.
I'm just saying. Look, I understand.
We've been over this.
You got nobody to cheer for. You got only one person to cheer, one team to cheer against. I get it. Hey, I've been there.
Yeah, no, I got my Titans. I'm good.
That's true. You like the Titans.
I got my Titans, man. I got Ryan Tannehill.
What
MVP.
is Eric Curry? I know Eric Curry he's a Bears fan. Which
I just saw. He says a win's a win. As a diehard Bears fan, thank you. I do not like saying it, but the truth is Green Bay wins. Both Green Bay and San Francisco have young head coaches, but on the field, Green Bay is more experienced with a few positional exceptions, and he sees that as experience as a unseen on paper benefit. He says Green Bay finds a way to win, and he hates to say that he's with you, Judah Buddha.
Wow.
Ouch.
Wow.
I mean, it's possible. I mean, maybe I was a week early on my prediction of San Francisco having a letdown. I mean, San Francisco doesn't have 2 weeks this time, and they've at home they've struggled against some teams at home. They struggled against Arizona at home. They lost to the Falcons at home. They lost to the Seahawks at home. They nearly lost to somebody else too. So yeah, so I think it's possible. I don't know. The Packers have to. It's not that San Francisco is just that unbeatable. But it's just that the Packers have just been such a disappointment on the road this season. They've got to step it up.
Yeah. Well, guys, I've got to go. I was thinking I'd let you guys finish off, but you guys like talking college. I have no idea what's going on.
I mean, I'm the guy who wears random stuff for college. I'm wearing a Colorado State
Rams.
Yeah.
Wow, that's random.
Yeah, well, it was when Mike Bobo was head coach there. So.
Oh, and you're really
that explains it.
You are loyal. You are loyal to those UGA folks.
Oh, man, absolutely. I joked that I was brainwashed into being a Georgia fan, but I am a Georgia fan through and through.
Well, maybe we can. Maybe we can finish off. I've got to go pretty quick too, but maybe we can finish off just talking about a little of Jake Fromm. If Judah wants to duck out, then
guys, I have no desire to talk about college. Although, can you guys tell me, like, other than Burrow and maybe Tua, getting better, didn't you say that there's going to be a lot of wide receivers this year, Jared? Right?
It's a big year for wide receivers in the first round. You're going to have
the top two.
So the top two are Jerry Jeudy from Alabama and CeeDee Lamb from Oklahoma.
Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb is like a Julio clone, kind of.
So he gets hurt all the time and can't make touchdowns?
He gets 1,000 yards all the time, and just
if you look at his
Falcons.
Yeah, if you look at his highlight films, like, and maybe I need to go watch more. Maybe Oklahoma just wasn't didn't have to throw as many jump balls to him or whatever, but really the way he was getting it was just getting the ball in space and just being a physical beast and just CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. And Jerry Jeudy is there's actually some debate about Lamb might actually go higher than him, which is I don't know. But those two, then you've got
Henry Ruggs from Alabama also.
Ruggs from Alabama. There's a small school player who has kind of a weird name that I don't remember, but he's like, him and Ruggs are like the next couple guys. You've got Higgins from Clemson, and then you've got Justin Jefferson from LSU. So you've got 6 at least, and then maybe, I don't know if there's another one I'm forgetting, but basically like 20% of the first round could be wide receivers.
Wow.
So yeah, a lot of talent there.
Okay. I think that's going to be a something that we can. I mean, you guys can talk all you want about the games and stuff, the big games that just happened, and the coach things that happened. I have no idea. But that's what I want to talk about later. Is as we get closer to the draft. Of course, that'll be after the Super Bowl and what have you.
Yeah.
Well, after 3 months nearly.
Yeah. Wow. Also, something to look forward to. I've got a fun topic for us next time.
Okay.
I've got a fun topic. It's going to come out of the blue.
Give us a clue.
Like a dodgeball.
Oh, okay.
It's going to come out of the blue like a dodgeball.
Yeah, you can't give clues for stuff that's going to come out of the blue.
Like a dodgeball. No. All right. Everybody in the chat, Thomas H., Eric Curry. I guess it's just Thomas H. and Eric Curry. Thank you guys for joining. I'm out. Guys, as always, enjoyed it. I will see you guys on the flibbity gibbet.
See you next Tuesday.
See you next week.
All right.
So, college football. Oh, I've been waiting for this.
Football. Yeah, we're gonna have to. I don't have a lot of time. I'm on Eastern time, so I'm already at 11:20 myself. But maybe we can talk for a second here.
Also, real quick, if you don't mind, Eric Curry has actually got a question for us about college. He says he knows there's a bunch of quarterbacks, a bunch of wide receivers. Who's your top running back coming out?
I don't remember if there's anybody ranked higher than Swift.
Yeah,
or not.
There we go.
Yeah,
I don't think so. Not in anything I've seen.
No, I think he's he's at the top there. I think there's only like one. I don't even remember another guy ranked in the first round besides Swift. There may be another one, but it's very, as far as skill positions go, it's very quarterback and wide receiver heavy this year. Which, I mean, that's just the way it's kind of gone in general with running backs as the years have gone on. There's usually not many. So that's not
like one freak year where you get a bunch of them and then back to normal.
Right. So not a big surprise there, but yeah, I think DeAndre Swift is somebody who's going to go probably from like, I'd say maybe 15 to, it looks like, I think the mock drafts I've seen keep putting him in at like the 15 to 20, early 20s range, low 20s. But yeah, so the other guy I was going to ask you about is we got the news that Jake Fromm's going pro.
We're gonna
abandoning Georgia. And this was one that everybody was really. I was watching Twitter the day that he had said he was going to announce, and a lot of people thought he would go back for his senior year.
He pulled a Herschel Walker on us.
And you can make a case, I think, either way, because he, on one hand, this isn't like Joe Burrow, going back for another year with a different passing game coordinator and all that. Like, it doesn't look like Georgia's going to make any radical changes to their system. Fromm in his junior year had what was for him his worst year.
Exactly.
So, right now, at least people can say, well, maybe this was kind of a fluke. Maybe we should look more at his sophomore and freshman seasons. But if he goes back and has another bad year, then he's really trending down. So, to me, he's a guy who can, like, he and Jacob Eason, another former Georgia quarterback,
Yep.
Can
For all
both.
you Washington and Ohio State fans, you're welcome for the quarterbacks.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Georgia's just like a farm university for other schools getting star quarterbacks. So it's their farm system is UGA. Yeah. So Eason went to Washington. I think both of those guys will climb in the pre-draft process. Eason, because teams are going to fall in love with his arm. The more that they get away from games and the more they see him just slinging rockets all over the field, they're going to see Ben Roethlisberger or Matthew Stafford.
Matthew Stafford, that was my comparison. Yeah.
I can easily see Eason climbing up into. I will actually, I think, be surprised if he doesn't climb up into the top 10.
Whoa! Like top 10 entire draft.
Top 10 entire draft. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I don't know that he'll make it to the top 5 or something like that, but I can easily see him going in like that 6 to 10 range. From I think people are going to fall in love with him too for his intangibles, and they'll go back to the accuracy. He doesn't have that strong of an arm. He's not that mobile.
He's very accurate and his great awareness of the field, though.
Yeah. So I think he's going to be either. I don't know if he's going to be a first round pick.
If he is, it's late first round.
It's late first round. I can see him going like early second round, like a Drew Brees or an Andy Dalton, somebody like that. If he slips into the second round, then I think it's probably the top 10 picks of the second round. But I think it was probably, we'll just have to see how it works out. It's going to be a hindsight thing, but I think it was probably a good idea for him to come on out. Just because how much better, like if he had a ton of like weapons maturing at Georgia, but obviously Pickens will be another year older and things like that. But what do you think? I think it was fine for him to come out.
Yeah, I think so too. I remember hearing about it and I found myself not being that surprised, just because same thought process. I mean, this was his roughest year yet. In fact, the entire Georgia team had a rough end of the year, excluding our Sugar Bowl win against Baylor. But part of that had to do with the fact that we lost half of our wide receivers and then everything else just kind of started going down. But I totally get why he came out. I think you're right. Early second round, I think is where he's going to go. I would love to see him go somewhere where he won't have to start immediately.
Right.
Because in my experience, that rarely works out well. I'd like to see him develop behind someone. And so please not Green Bay, but I'd like to see him develop behind someone. And I think it can be pretty interesting, but I do think that it's just it's just the way he goes through his progression and the accuracy with which he makes his throws is spot on almost all the time. So I think it makes sense. I'm not angry at him at all or anything. So I think it works.
Yeah, Sports Illustrated had, I thought, just the perfect article talking about what would be the ideal scenario for Fromm. And two of these teams were just ones I had talked about myself as being like the two best destinations. And then they added in a third one that makes sense. But so I was saying the Saints, you've got Drew Brees.
You can let Teddy Bridgewater walk.
I'm sure they'll have to. I don't see any way they can bring Bridgewater back unless somehow Breeze went somewhere else, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Not happening.
But you've got an opportunity to get like a little possible in an ideal world. I mean, he's never going to turn into him, most likely.
Yeah.
But like a little mini Breeze clone. About the same size, about the same physical attributes. He's very smart. He's very accurate. He doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not the most mobile. So
he's a field general.
Right. And so I think that could be a good situation for them. And then I've said the Colts, I would be, if the Colts used a second round pick on Fromm, he would fit that organization perfectly. They like to do a lot of those short, quick throws in Reich's offense. I would be fine with that. I don't want them to use their 13th pick on him. But I'd be fine with the second round pick, or if they had to trade up into the bottom of the first round, maybe that too. And then the other one for SI was the Patriots, which I have a little bit of mixed feelings on that. On one hand, Belichick, and if McDaniels is still there, which he may be forever because other teams are not hiring him as their coach, and it may end up being really tough for him to get away from what happened with the Colts, and it may be tough for him to, for them to buy into the idea that he can really be something without Belichick. But on one hand, Fromm could be successful there because they've worked, they made Matt Castle successful. They worked pretty well with Jacoby Brissett and Jimmy Garoppolo when Brady had to sit out the 4 games for Deflategate. But that's also imagine being the guy who's not filling in for Tom Brady. You're the guy taking over for Tom Brady. It's Patriots fans. It's just
barely grateful Boston.
Yes, it's Boston. It's Patriots fans. They're just brutal. So I think he would be the kind of guy who could handle that, but I wouldn't put that as a better situation than Saints or Colts or something.
I'd love to see him go to the Saints. I would absolutely adore that.
Yeah. So I guess what do you think? What are there any other teams that I'm maybe overlooking that you think he would be a good fit for? And the trend right now is it's going back towards having mobile quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Ryan Tannehill, Patrick Mahomes, all these different guys. Do you think that's really just kind of the future, and that guys like Fromm are just sort of from a past era and the days are dwindling? Or do you think this is sort of a trend that will kind of fluctuate back when you have some guys come along that, can be good enough to be like a Breeze or somebody like that. And even though they're not mobile, to be accurate enough to compensate for it.
Yeah, I think to answer that question first, I think it will fluctuate between the two of them. I think it will, because you'll always have the people who are just spot on and passing. And then you'll have, the Michael Vicks of the world that show up. And I think we're just kind of going through a phase of running quarterbacks that really kind of started with Cam Newton. And we're really in the biggest part of that running quarterback phase right now, creating my dream Madden team with 99 speed Lamar Jackson. But I think it is a phase. And I think that we'll eventually probably get somewhere near a balance of running quarterbacks and then accurate passers in the NFL at some point. I think that's what's going to happen. And sorry, what was the first part of your question?
So the first question was, are there any other teams that you can think of that would be a good fit for, you think that they would be a good fit for Fromm?
Yeah. See, I'm just going back through what's late first round, early second round. Other than that, good for, I think it could theoretically, this is completely theoretically, but if the Vikings really don't believe in Kirk Cousins that much and they're going to let him walk eventually, they've got a late first round pick. You've got Dalvin Cook, you've got Thielen and Diggs, and you could get Jake Fromm, who sits a year behind Cousins. And then if it still doesn't work out and he still goes without a win on Monday Night Football, then you bring Fromm in. So I think that could theoretically also work. I know Chargers and Panthers also have early second round picks, but those are less than ideal situations, I'd probably say, even though I could see Fromm doing a decent job in with the Chargers in LA. But I think the only other one I would pretty much say theoretically would be the Vikings. But I agree with you. Saints are definitely my number one go there for sure.
Yeah.
How far, I'm just curious, do you think Tua is going to fall? Because mock drafts are still having him go top 5, but that was a scary injury, though.
It was. Part of it's going to depend on, how his hip checks out, which, you're not going to know until I think like April or something like that. I mean, barring some sort of diagnosis that this is going to be like, a long-term thing and that he may re-injure it very easily or whatever, I still think he goes by the 6th pick. I could see Miami doing something weird and passing on him. But it's hard for me to imagine then he gets past like the Chargers then at 6, is somebody really going to take Justin Herbert over him or somebody like that? So I think unless he's got, unless there's some really bad medical news that comes out, I don't think he falls past 6.
Yeah, I think this is kind of crazy because normally going into draft for like the last 5 years, it's always been, okay, so the Browns have a chance to trade to someone. Are they going to do it or not? And they just like amassed picks. And we get back to the year where they took Baker number 1 and then they took Denzel number 4. And now it's just like, you've just got a bunch of other teams in there. You've got Cincinnati, Washington, Detroit, and New York, who all, except for Cincinnati, somehow kind of have their guy right now. Daniel Jones is with the Giants. You still got Matthew Stafford in Detroit. You got, for better or for worse, you got Dwayne Haskins. So, yeah, I agree with you that there's no way Tua falls past 6 for me. And if he does, there's no way the Panthers don't take him at 7 because if Cam's going to walk, I don't know if Kyle Allen's the answer.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think Kyle Allen's the answer. I don't think Will Greer's the answer. I think the Panthers, I don't know if they'll use their 1st round pick on him. I mean, now with Kuechly leaving, that complicates things even further. So I don't know what they'll do on that front. But I would, it's hard to say with everything with Cam is just kind of up in the air. What was the other thing I was going to say? Oh yeah. So Cincinnati being Cincinnati, do you think there's any way that they would trade that pick, like that somebody comes to them with just a crazy offer, and they say, and I don't think Joe Burrow would do this because he's an Ohio kid. It would probably be in his best interest to do this, to just pull an Eli and say, I won't play for you, which, I mean, really, it then gets tougher. It's tougher for him though, then, because like right behind him, a few picks later is Miami. Is it really going to be any better to go to Miami? No. So, but would he be better off trying to force a move to the Chargers or the Panthers or the Raiders or the Colts, someone like that? I don't think that'll happen. He's not the kind of, I don't think he's the kind of kid, or that family would be that same, that would want to use that kind of, I say Eli Manning. I say Eli Manning, but it was really an Archie Manning power. Obviously Burrow's family is not the Manning family. So I don't think that happens, but I could see, I mean, Cincinnati just makes nonsensical decisions. They keep Marvin Jones for, 7 years past when they should have. They don't trade AJ Green when there's no benefit to keeping him and every reason to trade him.
They keep Marvin Lewis for 15 years.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, I meant to say Marvin Lewis. I think I said Marvin Jones.
Oh, Marvin Jones.
So it just, you can't take it for granted. Again, bad teams make nonsensical decisions, and so I think it's possible. I would still bet on them keeping it, but I think it's possible. So do you think there's any way he does it? And if they did, like, what would someone have to give up for Joe Burrow, or what should a team be willing to give up to get Joe Burrow?
See, Eric Courier is with me on this one. The owners' meeting is going to be just hilarious this year. It's going to be incredible. Here's the thing. The only way the Bengals should trade away Joe Burrow is if they get a Minnesota Vikings trading for Herschel Walker-esque trade. That is the only way I see possible. If someone just offers them just like, here's the house and the keys to the car, right? They just need literally a slew of things. I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they'll go and do something ridiculous and trade him for like a first round and a third round or something like that. Maybe they'll do something dumb. But I think like if I'm Cincinnati, just looking at what Joe Burrow did last year, there's no way I'm giving him up unless the Redskins cough up like 5 picks or something like that. And they better be good ones too.
Yeah. If you were a team, okay, let's put you on the spot and say the Bears.
Okay.
The Bears and I know that the Bears don't have a first round pick, right?
Nope, we don't. We have 2 second round though.
But let's imagine, that I guess we can just go with that actual scenario, but so it's going to be nearly impossible for the Bears to do it without a first round pick. But suppose they did, like how many first round picks, second round picks, third round picks, how many would you give up to go get Joe Burrow to replace Mitch Trubisky?
Oh my goodness. Honestly, I'd rather just like get Eason or something. I'd rather give up less and get Eason or Fromm later in the draft.
Okay.
Like if I was hypothetically like married to the idea of getting Joe Burrow, like I said, I'd probably have to give up like first round this year, second round this year, second round next year, and maybe third round next year, and maybe something else.
And that would never do it to get him.
Exactly, right. Like that's the limit, and that's still not going to work. So if I'm the Bears, if I'm getting a quarterback, I'd rather get Neeson. I'd rather get a Fromm. I remember I jokingly texted some of my friends. We have like a Bears group chat, and we'll talk to each other during the games. And I texted them, Fromm's not coming back to Georgia. You know what this means. He could go to Chicago. It's like a joke. And then I thought, well, if they really want to do that, that wouldn't be terrible. I don't think. We've got 2 second round picks. So I don't think it would be terrible necessarily. And actually, speaking of Jake Fromm, that kind of just reminded me of someone else he could go to. If they want to trade up, this is kind of like my shocking pick. You've got solid running back. If you get another wide receiver in the draft, you have one of the NFL's best defenses. What if he became Roethlisberger's backup in Pittsburgh? What if? What if?
They need somebody. That would be such a switch for them, right? Because they're two completely different, quarterbacks. But I mean, the guys that they had behind them were Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, two completely different quarterbacks, both terrible in their own unique ways. That would be interesting. I mean, because Pittsburgh desperately needs someone. That's another team that they need to seriously look at taking a quarterback, because at Ben's age,
you cannot take Josh Dobbs in the 4th round again.
No, right. And you can't, I don't think you can't really put Pittsburgh fans through another season of Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges,
No way.
So I think you're right. I think they should be one of those teams that has to look at taking a quarterback. Of course, they don't have a first round pick, so it's going to be it's going to have to be the second round. Up. Yeah, or stay there and hope somebody falls to them. Because we've got basically now 6 guys that are kind of thought of as either first or high second round picks.
Right.
Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Eason, Fromm, Love.
Right.
Jordan Love is the one we haven't really talked about from Utah State. And people see him and they see like the possibility of, Patrick Mahomes. And his stats were rough this year. He lost a lot from the year before. But
doesn't help he plays at Utah State. No offense to Utah State. I love you guys, but still.
True. So those are the guys. So, 6 teams. I mean, again, that's about, not quite 20% of NFL teams, but basically almost 20% of NFL teams could add a young quarterback within the first 45 picks of the draft or so, So it's a pretty good year to be quarterback needy, but maybe just a little bit painful that if you're not in that number one spot there. But we'll see. I'm curious to see. There's a lot of these guys that it's going to be interesting to see where they land. Justin Herbert is another one where some people are really high on him. Some people are, not fans. And so I could see him slipping. I could see, again, like we'll have to go through the pre-draft process, but I could see a scenario where Herbert possibly slipped behind like an Eason or a Love if a team falls in love with one of them.
Wow.
But I don't know. We'll have to see.
Interesting. Yeah. And Eric Courier, sorry I missed this. He does bring up a good question when we were talking about running backs. He mentioned Travis Etienne. Did he declare for the draft? I don't know if I missed that or not.
Let's see. I do not know.
Yeah. Because I thought he hadn't announced his pick yet.
Yeah, the last thing I see is that is Etienne yet to make decision about it.
Okay.
So gotcha. that was from like 20 hours ago. So
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. Did it surprise you that Trevor Lawrence that he's like probably going to keep staying at all at Clemson? Do you like that? I mean, I know he can't leave yet, but just still staying at Clemson. Do you like him still staying there for a while?
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean. Cause he's just a sophomore. So he can't, really do anything for one more year. The one thing I had seen was like some people saying, oh, he should just sit out next year.
Wow.
No, he should not sit out.
He wants to win a championship.
He wants to win. Yeah. He wants to win another championship. They won, last year. He got close this year. And, I think one thing that was cool about Trevor Lawrence is that, you could tell they had Dabo over on the sideline, kind of consoling him towards the end of the game. Like he really cared about that game. And that's starting to become a question with players and quarterbacks is like, how much do they really care about this game? Because again, part of that is from Andrew Luck just walking away at 29 over something that wasn't, I'm not even sure he was injured, period. I mean, I know he's had injuries, but I don't know that he actually had like a lower leg injury. Like they said this time, it was never really addressed there at the end. He just kind of walked away, literally and figuratively. So with Luck doing that, there's a lot more question about, does the guy love the sport? Because people want to, not only try to find somebody who's that talented, but has that kind of competitive drive like a Tom Brady. And so I think with Joe Burrow, you can see that. With Herbert, there's been some questions, maybe unfairly, because he's just kind of a smart guy who has other interests. Right. And so he's got some other interests, and it's almost kind of like if people hear that a kid has other interests than football, it's just like, no, oh my gosh, you have to be just locked in. You have to be a maniac about football. So he seemed really genuine about winning the Rose Bowl. I think that may kind of calm some of those fears. Eason's another one of those guys that there's some questions about him, how much he cares about football. He went to Washington, sat out for a year, had time to really learn that offense, and didn't look, he looked great based on his
solid year.
He had a solid year. He looked great based on his physical abilities, but it wasn't like he just learned that playbook in and out and,
Right.
was like going to his fourth option when,
Yeah.
so it's going to be interesting to see, like, kind of as we come along, teams get more invested in kind of answering that question with players or evaluating that with players, is like, how much do they really love the sport? So back to Lawrence, I think with him, you could just see how much, like, even though they were just coming off a year where they'd won the national championship, how much it bothered him to not be able to get another one. Yeah. And some of that was on him. He was overthrowing. He was overthrowing his receivers, underthrowing his receivers at times. And
Burrow outplayed him.
He did. He did. And he's younger, than Burrow by a couple years, but he's more physically gifted. It's kind of like, comparing again, like an Andrew Luck, where you've just got this, once in a generation talent, to with Burrow, maybe more like, it's hard to find a comparison for him because he's more athletic than a Breeze or Brady. But he's known more for like his accuracy as opposed to just having a cannon arm. So, we'll see. But I think there's no way that Trevor Lawrence, that game showed like he's not refined enough to just sit out a year out of the fear that he might get some kind of catastrophic injury, So, so come back to Clemson for one more year,
at least
improve and then leave as a junior. I can't imagine he'll stay for his senior year, but come back for one more year, and then it's going to be probably him and Fields in 2021.
I get the feeling that completely hypothetical, of course, here, but if either Fields or Lawrence goes to the national championship and loses, maybe not so much Lawrence, but if Fields go to the championship and loses, somehow I get the feeling he might come back one more year just so he can get the national championship before he leaves. Like, I could see that playing out because that's like you got the one last big thing before you go on to the NFL. Like with Burrow, he conquered completely with LSU. So I could see Fields or Lawrence staying for a senior year in the hopes that, hey, I got one more shot at a national championship if they fall short again.
Maybe. It would just be really tough. I think if you put yourself in that position where you suddenly have the opportunity to get millions of dollars, do you put that off for one more year? I don't know that I could do that. And Burrow, with Burrow, if he had come out last year, he would have been like a 4th or 5th round pick, And so with him, there was more, it wasn't like a selfless decision, it was in his best interest to come back and try to improve his draft stock. It would be really interesting to see, like, had that been his sophomore year and then his junior year, would he, because with him, I could maybe see that. I think in the end, like, his agent and parents would probably like talk him into going ahead and going, but I could see him, like, if you looked at his speech from the Heisman ceremony where he was talking about wanting to win for Coach O and, his ties to, like, how much he idolized Drew Brees and, even though he's not from Louisiana, how he became such a, part of that culture. Maybe I could see him doing that. Just hardly anyone else. It's really tough for me to picture him, because even like Fromm, who's probably would have had the most to potentially gain from coming back, but also a lot to lose. But he just seems like the big man on campus. He's a great college player and a great college kid and all that. Even he didn't do it. And you think about next year, what the SEC looks like without Burrow, without Tua.
Yeah.
That was kind of a golden opportunity for Georgia, and he didn't even do that. So it's tough for me to see Lawrence or Fields being willing to do that. But I don't really, of course, know them.
Yeah, we can't predict the future.
Right.
Yeah. I do think it's kind of funny. A while back, I saw an article that while Lawrence isn't allowed to enter the NFL draft this year, he would actually be able to enter the inaugural draft of Vince McMahon's XFL. If he wanted to be their poster boy for the league,
oh my goodness,
we got Trevor Lawrence or whatever as our star, and I was just like, no, that's not happening.
Yeah, that would be interesting to see if somehow the XFL. I don't know that the XFL will be around long enough to.
I hope it's
influence, but if it stuck around for some length of time and it started siphoning away players going into like their junior year, and they wanted to go make money, and especially players who maybe don't have that much of an NFL future or something, or it would be as a late round pick. It would be interesting to see if somehow that had an impact, and maybe the NFL, relaxed those rules by a year to let sophomores come out or something like that. That will be kind of interesting to see if anything comes out of that.
Yeah, it should be interesting. I don't know. Every time I see the XFL, I just think football, but with a twist.
Yeah.
Like, that's just what I think about it.
Yeah. I think XFL, the best you can kind of hope for out of it is that, again, like it's kind of a training ground for seeing if certain things work, because they are changing different, they're changing several rules.
Bunch of end zone rules. So.
Yeah. And the NFL, if the NFL's smart, they will just kind of look at it as sort of like, crash test dummies, or not the players as much as just the system as a whole. Like the XFL can just be this thing where you just test out and see, does any of this work? Does any of this make sense for making our league safer and more fun? I would not be surprised if the NFL ends up adopting, maybe a rule from what the NFL or from what the XFL is changing. So I think that'll be interesting to see. But,
it should be. Maybe we can finally figure out what a catch is. Maybe they'll crack the code.
Right. Yeah. I don't. Maybe. Yeah. If the XFL could come up with a system for that the NFL adopted, and then that would make it worth the existence or the resurrection of the XFL.
Yeah. Well, unless you got anything else for us, I'm just curious.
No, it's nearly midnight. I'm gonna have to go to bed.
Yeah, sounds good. I think that'll pretty much do it for us. Do you mind if I ask you one final question to finish this off?
Sure.
Look, I know Georgia was a 2-loss team. I know they lost in the SEC championship. They rolled in the Sugar Bowl. But do you really think Oklahoma was better? I mean, come on.
No. No, that was a tough spot. That was a tough spot for that fourth team, because like Oklahoma didn't deserve it, Oregon didn't deserve it,
Utah didn't deserve it. They lost.
Georgia, if they just played LSU, and LSU was the number 1 seed. You couldn't not put LSU number 1. Do you want to put Georgia back in to play LSU again? Yeah. So that was really a tough.
It's a tough call.
No win scenario. There just wasn't a good, LSU.
It was a no win situation.
It was like LSU should have just gotten a bye.
Honestly, yes.
So, or they let 2 lesser programs combine their teams together. Like they put Oregon and Oklahoma together
Yes.
into one team or something,
Yes. Yes.
Um,
let's put Oregon and Appalachian State together and combine them.
right. So yeah, it was not good. It was a disappointing semifinal, and that was why Ohio State was lobbying so hard after their win in the Big Ten championship to be the number 1 seed, because they knew, like, if you get Clemson, that's going to be a tough game. If you get Oklahoma, go ahead and punch your ticket to New Orleans, because you're gonna be there. So that was unfortunate for them that they had to get Clemson in the
semifinals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it. And by ladies, I pretty much mean hi, Grandma. That's going to do it for another edition of the RotoHackers Podcast. My name has been AJ Herschel, and still will be AJ Herschel, repping a Titans jacket. And right over, dang it, right? I can never get these directions right. Right over there, y'all already know, it is the absolute stud. That is Jared. Thank you for taking a look at today's episode. If you are coming in late, be sure to check the beginning of the podcast to see if you won a free RotoHackers T-shirt. I'm AJ Herschel Kid signing off for the RotoHackers Podcast. We'll see you next time, next Tuesday, after the championship games. Glory, glory to old Georgia.